Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by UFC Featherweight Jim Alers. Jim, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm fine.
Jim, you got a big fight coming up, April 11th. You're going to be making your UFC debut at UFC Fight Night 40. Before we get to the fight, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to when you got that call saying that you were going to be fighting on this card and that you were offered a UFC deal. Who gave you the call? When did you get it? And what was said to you?
So I was actually on my way to work at like 6:30 in the morning, and I got an email from my manager, basically just forwarding me a message from Sean Shelby saying Jim Alers versus Omar Allen, April 11th. And I look at it, and I didn't think anything of it real fast. I just put my phone away. And then he sends it again, and I was like, wait a second. It took me a second to register before I finally realized, like, oh, shoot, this is a UFC contract right here. So, yeah, man, I was just overwhelmed with emotion. I had to pull over, just to gather myself.
Right.
And then continue my way to work.
What do you do for work?
I work at a behavioral hospital.
Oh. Now, will this UFC deal, will that change things for you? Will you not work that job anymore, or are you still going to try to do both as long as you can?
Well, I'm still going to work there. I just shorten the days, I'm only going to work like 2 days a week just because, I feel where I work is really for a good cause, and, I'm helping kids a lot. So it's just something I enjoy doing.
You were the Cage Warriors featherweight champion. When were they planning on having you back fighting for them if you weren't signed with the UFC? What was the timetable for return to that organization had you not got this deal?
Well, my last fight, actually, my contract was actually scheduled for April, before my contract ran out. I had one more fight on my contract. So I'm guessing around the same exact time.
Oh, it's perfect timing for
yeah.
Training camp. So what exactly were you doing when you got that call, training-wise? Were you preparing for another fight, or were you just doing a regular training routine?
No, yeah. I'm always trying to prepare. I felt like I was close. And so what I wanted to do was, what I did was look the next 6 UFCs coming up. I looked at how many featherweights were fighting, and I was like, you know what? One of these guys might get injured. So I'm just going to get ready just in case. So I started training as if I had a fight, as if I already was called to the UFC.
It's funny you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next question. I saw you had a post on Twitter or Facebook about how there was a lot of featherweight fights coming up, and you were ready to step in if somebody was going to go down. When you got this call that you were going to be fighting in Abu Dhabi on April 11th, were you surprised that they're giving you this much time? It's not a short notice fight. It's just a regular fight scheduled. The card was just announced, and this fight was put on that card. Were you surprised that your UFC debut is not going to be a short notice one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about it and you kind of do your research, like, there hasn't really been a featherweight American signed.
Right.
That's not on short notice in a few, maybe like 2 years now, Everyone else has just been like a week notice, or someone's been pulled out. So, I mean, I was really surprised to actually get a full camp pretty much.
Has it sunk in yet that you're a member of the UFC? Because you've been trying to get this for a very long time. You're on a nice win streak here. A lot of people thought that, this is a little late for you to be signed with the UFC. A lot of people thought, maybe 2-3 fights ago, you should have got a call from them to fill in on short notice or just get signed, whatever the case may be. A lot of people thought that you were worthy of a UFC deal before the time they signed you. But has it sunk in yet, or will it not sink in until you're actually in the cage fighting?
I kind of knew a few days before the UFC announced it. I couldn't tell anybody.
Right.
And during that time, it didn't really feel like it. But, the moment the UFC announced it and then everyone knew, it was just, like, overwhelming again. Like, just the amount of people congratulating me on the hard work and all that stuff finally, reaching my goal. That's when I realized, like, oh, my God, this is it.
Jim, right now you're on an 8-fight win streak. 7 stoppages in this 8-fight win streak, 6 by submission and 1 by TKO. I'm just curious, what has allowed you to go on this win streak?
Yeah, I focused a lot on my stand-up. I felt like, that was my weakest point, and I just needed to be more comfortable. And I think back then I was, learning my stand-up from YouTube back then.
Right.
So, that's a big change from, just trying to do it myself to actually getting the coach, and then from there going to privates one-on-one time. You gotta spend money in order to, make it big and continuing to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Back on April 3rd, 2010, you suffered your one and only loss in mixed martial arts. You were defeated by Ronald Jacobs at AFO 7 by TKO in round 1. I'm just curious, what went wrong for you in that fight, and also, what were some things that you took away from that fight, and what are some things that you evaluated from that fight? Because when fighters lose a fight, they have to evaluate a lot of different things. They have to evaluate what they did wrong in the fight, what they did wrong in their training, what they did or didn't do in training, who they did or didn't work with in training, what their opponent did right. There's a lot of things that goes into the evaluation of why someone lost the fight. So, first part, what did you learn from the loss? And second part, what did you evaluate from the situation? What did you have to go back to the gym or YouTube videos and
I think everything from, my attitude, I was already thinking I was 5-0. Mm-hmm. That was going to be my 5th fight. I was already saying, I'm going to walk through this guy. I just got too cocky, I think, and there's a thin line between being confident and cocky, and in my mind, I already beat him. It was an easy fight, and he came out there to prove me wrong. And from there, I had to just think about my training, think about how I came into fights. The mental aspect is very important in this game, and so I had to change that big time before I fought again. I took an 8-month layoff after that.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're training out of Tough as Nails MMA. Just curious, who are some of your coaches and who are some people that you train with?
I'm training with, what I do is my wrestling coach is one of my main coaches. He's my strength and conditioning coach also. His name's Hank Porcher. He's wrestled, for many, many years around the world. He's been pushing me since the beginning. And I kind of travel around to different gyms and try to get the best that I can. Tough as Nails is my main gym that I started. So I have a few guys that, have been pushing me since the beginning also. But I train with Paul Moffert, Muay Thai, who fights for Glory, and, Glory is the UFC of Muay Thai.
Right.
So, he knows his stuff. He's definitely pushing me. He's going to take me to the next level there. I do boxing separately. I box Peachy's Boxing Pit. I'm just traveling all around, trying to get the best I can.
Mm-hmm. Now, for this training camp, are you working with anyone special? Are you traveling to somewhere special to get ready for this fight? Are you bringing someone in to help you get ready for this fight, or is it just the same old routine?
It's hard now. I have a newborn. Mm-hmm. So, me and my wife, we take turns on taking care of him right now. He's only 4.5 months. So, I would like to go away to a camp like I've done in the past, but, I just don't want to leave that burden on her. Just trying to take care of him by herself and work and do all that stuff. So I might stay in Florida, stay locally. I know we have big gyms here like Black Zillions and, MMA Masters, a lot of gyms that have multiple UFC fighters. So I'm thinking I might go spend a week or two at one of those gyms.
Mm-hmm. On April 11th, you're going to be taking on Omar Allen. How much do you know about him?
Not much. I mean, I know he actually hasn't fought in a while. He had one fight this February, and I think that was his first fight in about 3 years, Mm-hmm. So he's a submission guy, it seems like. 10 submissions out of his 18 wins. That's very cool. If it goes down to the ground, I'm ready for a war there. But other than that, he just seems like he has good cardio, and a lot of heart.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were the Cage Warriors featherweight champion. You vacated the title because you signed with the UFC. I'm just curious, did you have to give the belt back? Because if I remember the story correctly, the belt that you have is the one that Conor McGregor had, because when he signed with the UFC, the guys who were running Cage Warriors went over to his gym and were there to congratulate him on signing with the UFC, and then they spotted the belts that were hanging in his gym, so they took them off the wall and decided to keep them. They didn't let him keep the belt. So I'm just curious, do you still have your belt? Have they allowed you to keep it?
I actually just sending it back today. I said my goodbyes. What you have to do is win 3 times, defend your belt 3 times, and then you get to keep it.
Oh.
I only defended it twice, so I have to send it back.
Oh, I see. That's horrible.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Well, now, Cage Warriors is one of the biggest MMA promotions in Europe. They're doing a lot of great things. They have a lot of great talent on that roster that they have there. How much did fighting for them prepare you for the situation you're going into with the UFC? You know, you're fighting for the biggest show in the world now, but Cage Warriors, they're a pretty big show in Europe, and you were, you know, on the top of the card. You're the guy on the poster. There's a lot more pressure because you're the champion. Now fighting in the UFC, the biggest show. How much did fighting for Cage Warriors help you get ready for this upcoming fight on April 11th?
I think tremendously. You know, before Cage Warriors, you know, if I thought I was ready for the UFC, I was so wrong. You know, they're top of the line promotion. You know, everything they do, you know, is top class. You know, UFC level, if not the same. You know, and you know, they gave me that international exposure, fighting all over the world. You know, that's something that I'm going to be doing in the UFC. So, you know, without Cage Warriors, you know, I don't think I would be where I am right now.
Just curious, did you ever try out for the Ultimate Fighter?
Twice.
Really?
Yep, 2 times actually. The last time I tried out, I was cut from the final 50 to pick 32, and I was one of the 18 people cut.
Oh, I see. You've been trying to make it to the UFC for a while now. I'm just curious, what reasons were they giving you or your manager when you called them up and said, "Hey, what do I have to do to get signed?" What were they telling you on why they couldn't give you a contract till now?
You know, it's just right now the UFC has a lot of fighters, you know, and you know, they're doing their best to put as many cards out as they can, you know, but you know, they have to fulfill their obligations to fighters that they sign, you know, and the featherweight division is one of the biggest divisions. I think about 50-something fighters. I think the only other division that's as big is lightweight, if I'm correct. But, you know, so there's just so many fighters in the featherweight division, so I kind of just had to wait my turn.
How long ago would you say that you were ready for this opportunity? Was it 2 fights ago, 3 fights ago, or is it, you know, right now is the perfect time for you to be signed? You know, when did you think you really had everything put together that if you were to go into the UFC, you'd go on a really nice run? When did you start to think that?
I think, you know, after I defended my title the first time, you know, I went to a 5-round decision, and, you know, I felt amazing through every single round. And I said, you know, if I can do this, you know, I'm ready for, you know, any 3-round fight that I can pull in the UFC, if not a 5-rounder.
I looked at your record, and I noticed that all your submissions, the 9 that you have on your record, all your submission wins have all been by choke. Is that just a coincidence, or is that something that you go for? You know, you're a big fan of the chokes. That's something that you're targeting. You're targeting the neck. Is it a coincidence, or is it something you're going for?
No, I'm a big fan of chokes. You know, arm bars and stuff are tricky in MMA, and I don't really like giving up position. You know, so even from the mount, if you go for an arm bar, you know, you're giving up position if they escape. So I believe in just having dominant position, controlling, and just breaking the guy's will. Once I do that, you know, the submission's going to be there.
Now, on April 11th, a lot of people are going to be exposed to you for the first time because there's a lot of people out there who solely watch the UFC. I mean, there's a lot of hardcore fans out there who've seen you in Cage Warriors on MMA Junkie. People have tuned in to see you fight, but for the most part, a lot of fans will be exposed to you for the first time on April 11th. To those people that haven't seen you fight before, how would you describe your style?
I think I'm just really exciting. You know, I push forward. You know, I'm always going for the finish. You know, I try my hardest not to go for decision. You know, and you know, you're going to see a lot of submission attempts. You know, hard punches, and I'm great wrestling.
Your fight at Cage Warriors 53 back on April 13th, 2013, you won that fight by triangle armbar. You defeated Johnny Salavera. I believe that's how you say his name. I could be wrong, but that's the best I can do. But what do you think you made him tap with? Was it the arm, because you were twisting it in every sort of angle, every different direction, or the choke? What do you think you got him to tap with?
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit of both, because you know, the choke was locked in, you know, and you know, he just had strong will to hold it. But I definitely think the arm was a big factor. You know, I heard it pop a few times, and you know, once it did that, I knew he was done.
Jim, on April 11th, how do you defeat Omar Allen?
I think I'm going to win second rounds by submission.
Jim, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
For sure. No, of course, I want to thank Never Stop and Never Stop. I also want to thank Vernon Marie, Erectus. They've been there for me for the whole time, and Rock and Wellness as well.
Jim, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck April 11th at UFC Fight Night 40 against Omar Allen.